Hello, welcome to IELTS with Will. Today we're going to look at an IELTS Task 2 essay. This is an analysis video where we analyze an essay and see if we can make it better. So this is an analysis of Task 2 advertisement essay. In this analysis video, we're going to look at a candidate's essay, and that's his answer to the question. We're then going to suggest a structure and vocabulary that hopefully will make it better. And then we're going to rewrite his essay. So this essay is a positives versus negatives effects. Does something have a positive effect or a negative effect? Let's have a look at the question. So we are surrounded by all kinds of advertising, which significantly influences our lives. Do the positive effects of advertising outweigh its negative effects? So let's have a look at this. This is the student's essay. So this student answered the question, and this was his answer in the 40 minutes he had to write. Now look at it. You do not read his essay yet, or you can if you wish, but look at this essay and tell me the first thing that you see that is wrong with this essay. Well, so look at this essay and think to yourself, what is the first thing that you see wrong with this essay? Something very clear to the examiner. Well, the first thing wrong with this essay is, whoops, he's written 6 paragraphs. 6 paragraphs for a Task 2 essay. So this is telling me that maybe there's something wrong with this essay. Anyway, there could be many things wrong with this essay, but what we'll do is we will ignore errors, and errors like grammar, spelling, and things like that. So let's ignore the errors for the moment and look at other things. So before we go any further, what words do you think the student will repeat from this question? So the question, again, we are surrounded by all kinds of advertising, which significantly influences our lives. Do the positive effects of advertising outweigh its negative effects? So what words do you think the student will repeat? So we might scan for repeated words. That's what we'll do before we read it. We're going to scan this for repeated words, and possibly he'll repeat people or advertising, advertisement. That's because it's the topic. I saw the word provide there, more perhaps, and small I saw in there as well. Okay, so these were repeated words I found in. So I saw these words already just from scanning it. Maybe you could scan it and see more. So after I've noticed the repeated words, I highlighted the repeated words in yellow. So these words are clearly repeated throughout this student's answer. Then we look quickly, scan again without reading for basic words. Very basic words that will not get the student any good marks. Words like good, bad, convenient, comfortable, things or stuff. You couldn't get more general than that. So after we've scanned for basic words, what do we see? Well, we put the basic words in blue. So we've got yellow for repeated words, blue for basic words. So then we'll quickly scan for informal or maybe emotional words, because they shouldn't be there if this is a formal essay. So we do that, and we have them highlighted in the purple color here. So now we've got yellow, blue, and purple. It's starting to look quite colorful. And finally, let's have a scan for strange or awkward words or phrases that just do not seem like they should be there. So we highlighted the strange and the awkward in green. So here we have it. We haven't read the essay yet, but we've scanned it and we've seen that all of these words look like they could be a problem. And then I just do a quick scan, a very quick scan for errors and repetition, particularly of grammar this time. So we're looking at repeated grammar, the use of contractions. You should never use contractions in there. Grammar errors. Okay, so we do that. And we also look for word formation errors, which we see there. Okay, so with the general errors that we talked about, we've highlighted some of them in gray. So this is the essay before we read it. We've scanned and we see all these concerns before we start reading this student's essay. So what should we do now? Maybe we should read the essay. First of all, the candidate tries to use passive, so that's a good thing. I would encourage anyone and everyone to try to use passive, but it's good if you do it correctly, of course. He has also tried to use the word although, which is a good contrasting word and better than but. And I saw that he used the word exaggerated, and I believe it was correctly, so that is also a good word. Now let's look at the student's introduction to this essay, and there's a big problem already. As you see, it's clearly 2 paragraphs. As far as I can tell, this is his introduction. So why is this introduction so long? Well, possibly the candidate does not have much to write about, so he doesn't know really what to discuss in the essay. He doesn't know the positives or the negatives. So maybe he can write an extremely long introduction and then he doesn't need to write much in the middle of the essay. Or possibly his teacher has told him it's really clever to paraphrase the question in the introduction, and therefore he's really enjoyed doing that. So introduction, what's so important about an introduction? An introduction should not be a long paragraph. It should be short and to the point. Why? Because you've got so few words to write and so little time to write in. You've got 250 words to write in 40 minutes. Now, maybe you're extremely good at English already and you think you can write 300 words in 40 minutes. That's very nice. However, one of the things that the IELTS essay tests and can also be tested in the introduction is the ability to be succinct. And that means to be brief, to the point, and do not have lots of extra information or sentences that you do not need. Be succinct, because that's actually difficult for a native speaker also. So if you're able to do this, it shows that you're good with English. Also, introductions are often described as a thesis statement. However, it seems to me it's a bit of a misnomer when you'd come to an IELTS essay, because a thesis statement in a university essay is rather substantial, but an introduction in an IELTS essay should not be like this. It should be brief and to the point, succinct. So here's the question again. Do the positive effects of advertising outweigh the negative effects? Simple. So let's look at introductions. So we start with the introduction, the first paragraph. So the first paragraph is the introduction. So this student is saying that there are more advantages to advertising than disadvantages. So his first paragraph needs to say this. The second paragraph, the student is trying to tell us why there are more advantages, and he's listing things like the advertisements allow us to choose between brands, provide jobs and help the economy, and they are artistic. That's paragraph 2. Remember, we would generally need to write, remember, we need to write 4 paragraphs, not 5, not 6, not 3. Paragraph 3 then should talk about the negatives of advertising. However, he doesn't talk about the negatives of advertising at all. And paragraph 4 is the conclusion where he says advertisements are better, or he means that advertisements have more positive effects than negative effects. He's basically repeating what he said in the introduction. So introductions, what's a good way to begin an introduction? You want to make this introduction short. So what's a good way to start? Well, these kind of passive phrases at the start of your introduction are rather good. Why? Because they're passive for a start, and it immediately tells the examiner you're using passive correctly. But also it's a very academic and formal sounding, and you often write like this in academic essays. So that's also a good beginning. So when we rewrite this introduction, I'm going to use one of these passive phrases to begin. I'm also going to try and use those who, an expression that I've taught in earlier videos. But, if I'm going to say negative effects, I would rather use different words. Why? Because negative effects is in the question, so I'll try to use different words for that, and also different words for positive effects. In paragraph 2, the main body, So first we start with a statement. We should state that advertisements are good or they bring positive effects. So remember, we're going to stay with what the student wants to say, not what we want to say, but what the student wants to say. So begin by saying advertisements bring positive effects, then we explain it, and then we give examples, and that should be paragraph 2. So positive effects, we don't want to say these exact words, so what other words can we say? Beneficial impacts, favorable consequences, desirable results, worthwhile impacts, or advantageous results could all mean the same thing. Now, of course, every word in English, or almost every word in English, has slightly different meaning from the other, but they're close synonyms. And for negative effects, what could we say? Well, we could say detrimental effects, adverse impacts, deleterious effects, unfavorable outcomes, unwelcome impacts, and disadvantageous effects. So again, they all mean negative effects, all have slightly different meanings, very slightly. For example, deleterious effects means quite harmful effects. And when we make a conclusion, it's good to use a good concluding expression. So for conclusions, we don't want just to say to finish or to sum up, maybe. There are other expressions we can use, taking everything into account. To conclude, overall, all things considered, ultimately, or to sum up. So that's how we will begin to conclude. So in analysis, we're going to look at the candidate's essay, suggest structure and vocabulary, so we've kind of started that already. Now, let's rewrite the essay. Okay, so now let's have a look at rewriting this essay. Now it looks very colorful, almost like a work of art already, but it's not a work of art, and that's why we're having to make it better. So let's look at the introduction first. Let's have a quick look and then we'll put in a better introduction. So let's look. Living in such an information explosion society. Okay, so what does that mean? I have no idea what he's talking about. What's an information exploding? No idea. So let's remove that. Okay, people in general can not avoid being influenced by advertisements. Is that true? Well, nobody's going to ask him because he's written his essay and he's run away. So let's remove that because it doesn't mean anything. Okay, and then we get, I'm always surprised when I hear people say that, blah, blah, blah. So the fact that he is always surprised is of no interest whatsoever to the examiner. We have to remove that also. Right, so now what do we have? There are much more disadvantages of advertisement. What? Than advantages. So here he seems to say that the advantages are less or fewer than the disadvantages, but the rest of his essay seemed to say the opposite. So his essay seemed to say that there are more advantages. So let's cut that down. There are more advantages, let's just say. So he begins by saying there are more disadvantages, and by the end of the essay, he's decided his argument was so strong that he's changed his mind. So this is no use. At the beginning, you must say what you think and keep it going right the way to the end. Okay, so let's go to the next paragraph. To be honest, that of course is a terrible expression that people use when they speak and not when they write. So to be honest is a terrible expression that native speakers use because it always suggests that they're not honest. But anyway, we remove to be honest because it's an informal spoken expression. And then he says it cannot be denied. Again, it's another useless phrase. And saying something cannot be denied makes no sense because people can deny anything. They can even deny reality. So let's remove that. Uh, so sometimes advertisements may contain some fake or exaggerated information. So is this him beginning to argue in the introduction? I don't think we need to do that right now. We just need to say, what does he think? Does he understand the question and what's his point, his viewpoint, or his stance? Right. So It may annoy us when we watch TV, or again, irrelevant, so we'll remove that. And as you see, this introduction is very quickly uh, reducing in size, so to speak. And now we've got, although there are some negative influence or influences of advertising once, I don't know why that's there. If we think of the positive effects, those small weaknesses should be ignored. So the first paragraph said he thought there were more negative effects than positive, but by the end of this second paragraph, he's changed his mind. So I think we'll stick with the more advantages part. And although it's a good one, but unfortunately, I think we'll just remove the whole thing. So basically, that's what he's saying. And all these words were wasted. All these words actually was just him going around in circles with some phrases he remembered or he'd learned to use in his IELTS essays. But in actual fact, what the examiner is thinking is hurry up and get to the point. Be succinct. Don't waste time with all these fancy words. Tell me, do you think there are more positive effects or negative effects? That's all he wants to know. That's all the examiner wants from his introduction. He doesn't want all this extra stuff, right? So he thinks there are more advantages, which means positive effects, right? So that's it. Right, there are more positive effects. Thank you very much. Right. So you want to say that, and it's also you just want to frame the whole of your essay to explain and to show that you know what the question is about. Okay. This does not mean that you spend 6 or 7 lines rewriting the question. Why do I need you to rewrite the question when I'm reading it? I can see the question myself. I don't need you to tell me what the question is. So I just need you to show me that you understand the question. That's a little different, you know. So do you understand the question or not? Clearly he didn't, or he wasn't sure. He was trying to play both sides. I don't know. Anyway, let's write an introduction. So I said at the beginning that I wanted to use it has claimed that, or something. It has maintained that, it has claimed that. So let's say it is claimed that advertising has many. So let's see it. We want to say negative effects. Let's say a better word than negative effects. We could say detrimental effects or impacts. Well, we say impacts just for fun. It's claimed that advertising has many detrimental impacts, right? Or I think I like effects better with it. Has many detrimental effects, okay? But this person doesn't agree. So, however, to contrast, I say I agree with, and I said I wanted to use this phrase in the introduction earlier, those who. So I agree with those who, and here's one of the expressions I gave you for suggesting it was full of positive effects, who extol its virtues, right? Okay. So it's claimed that advertising has many detrimental effects. However, I agree with those who extol its virtues. What virtue? The virtues of advertising. So, okay, that's 2 sentences. I would say that introductions in general in IELTS essays, unlike in academic essays, should be as short and succinct as possible. 2 sentences is good enough. It's not there to rephrase the entire question, which I can see already in front of me. I just want to know that you understand what the discussion is about. So what's the discussion? Advertising has negative effects, and some people say it has positive effects. Then what do you think? I think it has positive effects. Let's move on to paragraph 2. Okay, so we look at paragraph 2. Of course, there's errors and repeated words, but at the moment, all we want to do is make sure we understand the argument and make it very clear. So with the first main body paragraph, which is this one, we want to write the C structure. So we want to make a statement, and then we want to explain the statement and then give an example. So if we look at what this person has done. We noticed that he never gave us a paragraph about the negative effects. He just talked about the positive effects, right? Okay, so what's he got here? So first of all, it's about a positive effect. Then he has a second paragraph, which is also a positive effect. And then finally, he has a third paragraph, which is also a positive effect. So this should also all be one paragraph, but also this was going to make a very large one paragraph and a zero uh, paragraph for the negative effects. So let's see if we can make sense of the first paragraph here. So what's he trying to say? First of all, right, advertisements help us to choose things when we go shopping. It keeps us informed about the products. As a result of this, it provides possibility. Right, okay, so let's go for the first paragraph. So what's he trying to talk about? He's saying that advertisements help us choose between different products. That's what he's uh, trying to do. So we first of all try to make this more succinct, right? So advertising brings many positive effects. We want to change some of these words, but let's just write what we can at the moment because it keeps us informed, perhaps, of or about available products. What else does it do? Well, it kind of allows us to compare the same product. I think that's what he was trying to say. The same product of different brands, I suppose, is what he's trying to say. Of different brands, right? Okay. Advertising brings many positive effects because it keeps us informed about available products. It allows us to compare the same product of different brands. Okay, so that seems to be a summary of what he's trying to say. So as you see here, we don't want words like things, never write things. Okay, it's informed is a good word, but things is a very destructive word. It means really you don't know any vocabulary at all. He uses the word provides there, so that's a good word to use. However, you see as he spells compare wrongly. And there's many different wrong things, but actually there's one good one in here that I didn't notice, even though. So he's using although and even though quite well in this, which is good. But then he uses a contraction. Again, never use contractions in these task twos essays. It's very informal and we don't like it, so remove that as well. So it means that people can buy stuffs. So not only is it a general word, but it's used wrongly. Stuff's in a low price by the sale advertising. It helps us to save a lot of money. Okay. Right, so we've got the message, right? It brings many positive effects because it keeps us informed about available product, allows us to compare, and we can save money, I suppose, is what he's trying to say. Okay, so there we go. We've got that a bit better. So that's his first point. So we then have to uh, use the C structure. We need to apply the C structure. So advertising brings many positive effects. That's his statement, right? And then he has to explain why. So he's saying because it keeps us informed about available products, it allows us to compare the same product of different brands, and we can save money. Okay, so that's his explanation of sorts. So we have to put in some kind of example now. Okay, so let's think of a real example. What can I think about? Okay, people like smartphones, don't they? Stick a smartphone example in here. So I use the word commercial because it's another word for advertisement or advertising. The thing about advertising and advertisement is there are several synonyms or several variations in this word that you could use. So let's see a smartphone commercial for, let's say, Samsung. So that's a real company. So the Samsung could show how it is different from, say, what was an iPhone? I think this is how you would write iPhone when you write it down. Uh, Perhaps by having more high resolution. So I'm trying to think what an advertisement would show between phones and maybe a high resolution camera or a longer battery life. I don't know much about phones, but I still have to answer the question, I suppose. Okay, let's see if this makes any sense. In here, so this is a good thing about having the grammar check, etc. in here. It helps you out quickly. Okay, advertising brings many positive effects because it keeps us informed about available products. It allows us to compare the same product of different brands, and we can save money. For example, a smartphone commercial for Samsung could show how it is different from an iPhone, perhaps by having more high-resolution camera or a longer battery life. So buy our product because we've got a better camera and a longer battery life. Hey, right, okay. So that would be a real example and making clear what he said. Now, here it is extremely simple English still that can be improved, but it's in the correct order now. You can see that he said something, he's explained why fairly simply, and then he's given an example, which then makes what he's saying extremely clear. Okay, and that's the point. Nothing was clear earlier because the structure was off for a start. Anyway, okay. However, this is only one paragraph, so let's see if we can put in the second part of this paragraph. He wants to make 2 points. So he's also saying it's good for the economy, I guess. And how is it good for the economy? Let's see. So maybe we'll try and put this one in as well. Okay. We'll sort some of the language later, but advertising is also good for the economy. Okay, that's my second point. He's saying because it brings a lot. What's he saying? So you can businesses can do better. It looks like can do better, and people can get more job opportunities, right? That seems to be what he's saying. So I'm reading his essay and trying to simply put what he's trying to say. It's a huge industry makes a great contribution to the economic development, right? Okay. Advertisements can create more commercial communication. I have no idea what he's trying to say there, so goodbye to that. The producers can find opportunity to win more market by advertisement. So that's very basic English, and I'm not quite sure what that would exactly mean. I'll remove it. What I have to mention, so he feels forced that he has to do this. Not a good expression to use in writing, because that is again a very spoken piece of English. The instant development of commercial competition, more and more people devote themselves to. So that suggests that because there's more competition, more people focus on it. Why do you need to say any of this? Again, it's wasting words. I don't really see what he's trying to say. Okay, and then we get to a point. We can say that again. You can say that you can say that, but it's wrong to write it. Okay, so advertisements provide more jobs for people, right? Okay, so we got that. So this is what he's trying to say. Secondly, Secondly, advertising is becoming a huge industry. Now, huge again is a better word than good, but it's not a formal word. So you want to say a better word than that, maybe like substantial is one I like, substantial. So advertising is becoming a substantial or very popular, maybe in this case. It makes great contribution to the economic development. So it influences the economy is one, and it provides more jobs for people. Is that what we've said? Advertising is also good for the economy because businesses can do better. And yeah, sounds about it. Right. Okay, right. Okay, so that's simply put what he's saying. So what is he saying exactly? His second point, advertising is also good for the economy. Okay, that's his statement. Because businesses can do better and people can get job opportunities. Okay, that's his explanation. Where's his example? Well, he doesn't really like examples in this case, so we'll have to do it for him. Let's think of an example. For example, or for instance, I'll say that for a change, so I don't say the same thing all the time. For instance, right, okay, during a holiday period, and this is when I'm writing this now, it's coming near Christmas, and so that's the first thing on my mind. So during a holiday or festive season, for example, or period, like Christmas or New Year, there are different kinds of New Years. So, well, that seems that we could say New Year, not just have Christmas. Uh, an advertising sales campaign. As I said, we'll fix the English a bit when we. Uh, and you may see some repeated words until I fix it by making more sales. Okay, I'm just doing this quickly so you'll get the. Okay, the whole economy could benefit. Right, okay, I've got it. I think the whole economy could benefit, perhaps, from more shoppers buying stuff, so increased. I'm just trying to think of more example on this. Maybe we don't need all this, but we can see. Okay, ads is another word for advertisements as a kind of abbreviated version. Okay, so I've written in this very quickly. Uh, just to see how I can. I'll change the English in a moment, but I think this is what he's trying to say. So what? Advertising is also good for the economy because businesses can do better and people can get more job opportunities. For instance, during a holiday or festive season like Christmas or New Year, an advertising sales campaign can make more revenue by making more sales. The whole economy could benefit from increased spending, shopper spending. We'll fix that. Even small businesses can do this, for example. So that's quite a lot already for this paragraph, as you see, but it's a substantial full paragraph. What's it got? It's got 2 points explained, and it's got an example for both. And I think, therefore, we do not need any more for the positive points. Like this artistic value stuff uh, seemed a little bit vacuous anyway, so we'll remove this. And here we go. So generally, even when I restructure his essay, I've not changed any of, I've not improved vocabulary much. I've done it a little bit, but there's still rather a basic vocabulary. Okay, so when we generally fix what he has written, this is what it looks like. It looks like 3 paragraphs, But that is more indicative of what he has done wrong with the structure of the essay. The structure of the essay should be 4 paragraphs. He began with 6. He didn't need 6. He was using far too many paragraphs. So we cut down this essay to the number of paragraphs that he required for what he was saying there. That means that he missed talking about the negative effects, because now when we've edited this, he's only got 3 paragraphs, right? So what's he missing? He's missing a third paragraph. And here, okay, paragraph 3 should be a statement about the negative effects. Okay, the negative effects. He's talked about the positive. He loves the positive, it appears. So therefore, he's got to say something about the negatives. And the problem for him, of course, is that he needs to say usually about the same amount as he said for the positives. But let's see what we can quickly come up with if we give him something for the negatives. Right? Okay. Uh, okay. So I quickly wrote in for the student. I wrote some negative effects to balance what he has been saying. So, and it comes to, as I quickly do it here, I see it comes to 252 words, so that's not bad. So what did I do? Well, first of all, I wrote his second paragraph here, which is for negative effects. So first of all, you have to come up with some ideas of negative effects. The first thing that came to my mind was that especially during sales, people often pay for things and buy things that they regret buying. They just bought it because it was cheap. So therefore, I gave an example and a suggestion like that. And also I talked about an example and suggestion about how advertising can mislead children and get them to buy stuff that is either something they don't need or it's something not good for them. So here is that paragraph also. Now it looks slightly smaller, but not too bad. It looks roughly close to the size of the first one. But what's good about it and gives it balance, and balance is important here, is that his positive effects, a paragraph has 2 suggestions, 2 statements, 2 explanations, and 2 examples, and so does this negative one here, so that's good. I then also wrote a very short conclusion, which basically, I don't need to rewrite the question again for the conclusion. Everyone will go crazy if I keep rewriting the question. So basically, I just reiterate, I restate what my position is, or what the student's position was, and that was he likes the positive effects better than the negatives. So I wrote at the end, all things considered, that's one of the phrases I was suggesting. Although that I liked that, the fact that he used although, so I kept it. Although although there are negatives, advertising has many favorable consequences for the consumer and society alike. So that means it's got many positive effects. Okay, so that's a very short conclusion. That's all we need. So this still could be improved a lot, especially to do with grammar and vocabulary. But however, this is much, much better and would instantly get a much better mark than the one he's already written. So what did we actually do? We changed it. We did change a few words, but the most important thing we did was change the structure. We reorganized it to go into the C structure. We had a short introduction and a short conclusion, and we made these 2 main body paragraphs use the C structure: statement, explain, and example. Okay, so that's everything is there now. So it's already better. So I'll take a few moments and I will try to improve some of the vocabulary and some of the grammar. Okay, so I've just quickly written and improved this essay a little bit more, and we can quickly go through it. So the introduction is short and succinct. That's what you need for an introduction. Make it quick, brief. Tell me that you understand the question and your position if it requires one. So it is claimed that advertising has many detrimental effects. However, I agree with those who extol its virtues. That's the introduction. All right, so looking at the second paragraph, we had improved it already. I've improved it a little more for vocabulary and grammar, particularly if you notice there are a few more joining words and variation in joining words, like due to the fact that instead of because, I've used while to make a sentence longer, as well as is in there. And as we go through it, you'll probably see a few more and some nice words like prosper, words like this. We've said an example as we showed the last time. I changed an example. I took away one and added a little more to the example about jobs, etc. So there you can see it improved for vocabulary and grammar. Then the third paragraph, which did not exist in the original essay, we have created this. And in this one, it's slightly smaller, but it still gives two examples and explanations. On the other hand, among the possible adverse effects, so we're now going to introduce the negatives, which this student didn't agree with, but you have to acknowledge to show that you understand them. So if you look through it, there's additional grammar and vocabulary, the grammar this time, including the relative clauses that I've mentioned in other videos. And there is also the use of the passive as well, as we noticed before, as well as some joining words and markers, etc. And then our conclusion should also be short and sweet. And here we have the conclusion. I like the fact that the student used the although instead of but, so I kept this. What could be improved in this? Well, I see I've said negatives, not a negative effect, but negatives, which is okay, but could be better. Ultimately, although there are negatives, advertising has many favorable consequences for the consumer and society alike. So this is restating that they think the positives are more than the negatives. Okay, so that's the end of this analysis video. We've taken a low-level essay and we've analyzed it, we've rewritten it to make it a high-level essay with a very high mark. So that's IELTS with Will today. So if you've liked this video, please subscribe, click the like button, and click the bell for further videos. Thank you very much.